Hey, what's happening, guys? Good morning. What's going on YouTube? You guys have tuned into Rules for Rebels. Just enjoying my morning coffee here. Figured we'd knock out a quick video. We're going to be talking about a couple things today. We're going to be talking about labor shortages. We're going to be talking about supply chain shortages. And I had a couple examples from my real life about actually kind of seeing these labor shortages in effect. Saw some big signing bonuses being given on billboards as I was driving to Indiana to go to the beach this weekend. And it also kind of ran into my own supply chain shortage issue. And the media can't really be trusted these days. I don't really believe anything I see in the newspaper or on TV. I like to see things with my own eyes. So it was kind of interesting seeing these supply chain shortages and labor shortages with my own eyes. You can't believe what you see. It must have been a couple weeks ago. I saw a news article. Man in the UK, I think he was a mechanic from the UK died of COVID, and on his deathbed, he was talking about how he wished he would have gotten the COVID-19 vaccination. And I thought, wow, that's crazy, and that's kind of a sad story. And then about a week or two later, I saw that man's picture in another news article, and it said a man from Arizona, man with two kids from Arizona, who's a software developer, died of COVID, and on his deathbed was saying he wished he had gotten a COVID vaccine. And keep in mind, this was the same picture of the same man, and I was like, that is fucking crazy. I know the Delta variant is sweeping the country. Now we got Delta Plus out of South Korea. That's a big story, but you know what's an even bigger story in my mind? The fact that there's been some type of break in the space-time continuum, and a man who died in the UK 2 weeks later was able to resurface in Flagstaff, Arizona, across the pond, a continent away. And he also managed to have two kids and pick up a new career, a new trade as a software developer, and die a second time. That is crazy. But you can understand why I don't necessarily believe everything I see in the media. So this past weekend, I was driving out to Indiana. Me and my dog and my girlfriend were heading out to the dunes to go paddle boarding. And I forget which casino it is, but there's a casino in Northwest Indiana, and I saw a sign. They're paying $2,500 bonuses sign-on bonuses to casino dealers. I thought that's a pretty hefty signing bonus. I also saw McDonald's was offering $250 signing bonuses to cashiers and like line employees. So I am starting to see these, this labor shortage in true effect right in front of me. Also this weekend, I guess before we get into kind of covering these stories, I'll tell you a couple of my own antidotes. We're hearing there's shortages of coffee. There's shortages of jet fuel. There's shortages of McDonald's bags. I know there's still a tin can shortage. One of my clients who manufactures a product, they need to get raw ingredients in from China, and they haven't had these raw ingredients in like 3 or 4 months. I think one batch has landed in the U.S. in New York, but it's been stuck in customs for the past 3 months. Now, these guys sell about 2,000 units per week of this particular product. Just doing some simple math, that winds up being about, I don't know, $70,000 in sales. Multiply that across a month, that's 7, 14, 21, 28. That's $280,000 a month that they're missing out on. Now, obviously, that's not 100% pure profit, but they have like a 50% profit margin. So that's $175,000, $180,000 a month that they're missing out on because they can't get these raw supplies in to make their product. It's pretty crazy. Then this past weekend, sorry, I was going to pause it for a second. I was having a brain fart. But this past weekend, my laundry dryer wound up going out. Now, if it was up to me, how did I get this thing to go away? There we go. If it was up to me, I probably would have just picked up a cheap dryer off Facebook Marketplace. Wouldn't really cared if it matched, but women tend to be all about their laundry rooms. They all want the Pinterest or the Instagram worthy laundry room, and my girlfriend is no different. So she wanted to go out and get some new Samsung machines. So set aside $2,000 to go get a new washer and dryer. We go to Home Depot, and it's hard enough to settle on a big purchase, a new machine, and every single one we looked at, they're like, oh, the system says there's only 13, like you're probably not going to get this one, and then the waiting period is like September 19th or something like that. So my girlfriend's like, I can't go. My girlfriend works in the medical field, so she's like, she needs to wash her scrubs every night or every 2 nights. She's like, I can't go a month and a half without being able to wash my clothes. So we looked at machine after machine after machine, and just everything was out of stock. We finally managed to go over to Best Buy, and I think they must keep their own stock or have their own warehouse. I was able to get some and got them coming about a week from now. But running into these supply shortages myself right now. But yeah, in today's video, we're going to talk about some of these supply chain shortages, and then we're also going to talk about shrinkflation. So first, we'll be covering an article. McDonald's advises franchisees of bag supply shortage and encourages the use of trays. So we're going to cover this one. And in the next story, we're going to be looking at the 13 items which have faced the biggest shrinkflation. We've talked about shrinkflation in the past, but of course, shrinkflation is when, rather than raising prices on people, which, people tend to notice, they just slowly make the packaging smaller or give you less in the bag. So the bag might stay the same size, but you're getting less in the bag. And that's why when you get a big bag of Doritos, it's filled about a tenth of the way up and the rest of the bag is just air. But let's hop into this first story. McDonald's advises franchisees of bag supply shortage, encourages the use of trays. McDonald's Corp is advising restaurant owners to serve meals on trays to customers dining inside as the fast food chain is facing a bag supply shortage. What happened? McDonald's told its owners in late July that limited bag supplies have been impacting the industry as a whole and encouraged workers to transition to the use of trays. Recently I've noticed Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks have both reported supply chain issues with lids and cups, and I've noticed both chains or both franchises have changed the types of lids they use, have changed the types of cups that they use near me. Back into the article, almost 81% of restaurant businesses in the 12 months ending June 30th was made up of takeout orders. That's up 18% with the prior year's period, according to the NDP Group and research firm. Many customers have been asking for Big Macs, McNuggets, and fries to be packaged in bags, even when dining inside the restaurant, McDonald's noted. It has been difficult to return to the use of trays because we haven't done so in so long, according to a report from the Wall Street Journal. I'm not sure if people don't want to touch trays that other people have touched or what really the issue is there. The company says the limited supply of bags has had a minimal impact on restaurants. McDonald's has also told franchisees the chain will be limiting its purchases of straws after suppliers experience a shortage due to a drop-off in labor with a limited supply of resin. What's next? McDonald's said it's confident that customers will not experience a disruption of service as the company closely monitors the situation. Prices at its U.S. restaurants have risen by about 6% from the same period a year ago due to labor shortages and the increasing cost of food supplies. I actually took a international business class in college, and my professor had actually done some consulting for McDonald's with their Happy Meals. And, it's been years since I took this class, but it was kind of interesting. I remember part of what he wound up doing, or what his part of consulting was for this, he basically found them raw materials on a variety of different continents and in a number of different countries, and also helped them set up factories in a number of different countries. So McDonald's Happy Meals are made in, I'm just, talking out of my ass here because I don't remember the specifics, but, they set up a factory in California and another in New York. They set up a factory in Mexico and another in the UK, and then they set up another one in Thailand. So, and they do the same thing with how they grow their potatoes for their fries and everything else. But when you have 6 different factories and 6 different places you're getting raw materials from, even if one winds up going down, it's not going to disrupt your supply chain too much. So it's interesting, McDonald's, who thinks so far ahead in terms of these issues, is still running into a paper bag shortage. And I'm going to pause the video for a second, then we're going to hop into the story about shrinkflation, and I believe it's the 13 biggest shrinkflation items. Okay, so this one comes to us from the Business Insider, and it's titled, "Take a Look at How Companies Hide Rising Costs by Shrinking the Size of Everyday Products from Toilet Paper to Candy Bars." We've covered a couple stories like this in the past. I know Costco is giving you 23 less sheets of paper towels per roll. Costco's a company who's always had very low prices, so they don't have the margin to absorb just kind of eating some of these costs. I think a lot of times when raw material prices go up, or wholesale prices of an item go up, to a certain extent, the companies may eat that loss, especially if they have a good margin, because they want to stay on the good side of their customers. They don't want to get a bad reputation for giving them smaller packaging. But at some point, these companies need to remain profitable, and rather than raising the prices, they're going to shrink the items. Now, I haven't looked through all these items. I did notice a lot of more candy bars and kind of prepackaged things. Here's one way to avoid shrinkflation, right? Like, I guess they can raise prices on things, but shrinkflation can't happen to a tomato, right? Like, a tomato is a tomato. A store is not going to be cutting a chunk out of tomatoes to give you 3 ounces less of tomatoes. So rather than eating, corn syrup and processed garbage, buy real whole foods, and it's a lot harder for them to hit you with shrinkflation. But let's look at this. Take a look at how companies hide rising costs by shrinking the size of everyday products, from toilet paper to candy bars. The bullet points from this article: prices of consumer goods are increasing from food to household necessities. The term shrinkflation describes brands selling smaller amounts of product for the same price as before. It's a sneaky way for brands to hide growing prices. And I don't know about you guys. Let me know if you guys have noticed prices going up, and if so, what you've noticed prices of going up. I tend to not pay too close attention to prices. I'm cheap, but I'm just so naturally cheap that I don't really have to pay too close of attention to prices. But I just noticed on like an average grocery store trip, a trip that might have cost me $25, a year ago or even just a couple of months ago, is cost me $45 or $50 now. And, just kind of anecdotally, I'm seeing here and there a box of cereal that might have been $3.99 before is like $5.99 now. So I'm definitely noticing it. Let me know what items you're noticing going up in price, or what items that you are noticing shrinking. But the article starts off: it's not just you. Some grocery store products are getting smaller. Ingredients and manufacturing are getting more expensive thanks to inflation. And if they can't cut costs, companies have two main choices: hiking up prices or making their products smaller. Many of these size changes are subtle, like making candy bars sold in multi-packs smaller than the ones being sold individually, or changing the shape of their products so you can barely notice a difference in weight. Do we raise the price knowing consumers will see it and grumble about it, or do we give them a little bit less and accomplish the same thing? Often it's easier to do the latter, consumer advocate Edgar Dworsky told the Washington Post. This phenomenon, known as shrinkflation, was already happening before the coronavirus pandemic, but is set to get worse because of rising labor costs and ingredient prices, combined with soaring demand and the shipping crisis. Walmart Great Value paper towels dropped from 168 sheets per roll to only 120, while the price stayed the same. That's a pretty big drop there. Frito-Lay just shrunk regular bags of Doritos from 9.75 ounces to 9.25 ounces. Both currently are for sale at Target for the same price. And I have seen some people on like TikTok or Instagram or YouTube who go to a store, and what you're seeing right now is the company hasn't sold out of all of the old product, but they've also gotten new shipments in of the new product that's smaller package size. So you'll see two things of Doritos next to each other, right? One is 9.75 ounces, the other is 9.25 ounces. They're both going for the same price. Obviously, once the 9.75 ounce bags sell out, it'll be the 9.25. But I have seen people going to grocery stores and like cleaning out the bigger boxes of cereal or the bigger bags of rice or whatever it may be. Let's see. Hershey's cut down its 18-ounce pack of dark chocolate kisses by almost 2 ounces. Hefty's mega pack went from 90 bags to 80 bags at the same price. You're getting 10 less garbage bags. A 2-pack of Reese's peanut butter cups used to weigh 1.6 ounces. It now weighs just 1.5 ounces. And a lot of these price changes, from what I'd heard, earlier in the summer, or even way back in the spring, I think Johnson & Johnson and Procter & Gamble said, a lot of their personal hygiene items, baby items, etc., we're going to see a high single-digit price raise or inflation. So, things like diapers, baby formula, all this type of stuff, probably looking at like 7 to 9%, 7 to 10% hike in prices. I believe it was like late August, early September that they were announcing that. So we're already seeing shrinkflation. We're already seeing prices rising. But I think kind of as we get into fall, you're going to see this get even worse. Tubs of Pringles are different weights depending on the flavor in the U.S., but at Walmart, they're all the same cost. Let's see, that's according to Walmart. General Mills shrunk its family-size boxes from 19.3 ounces to 18.1 ounces, a drop of nearly 10%. So your cereal is going to be smaller. Tillamook decreased the size of its ice cream cartons from 56 ounces to 48 ounces. It said it didn't make the decision lightly, but that if it didn't make its cartons smaller, it would have had to hike up prices because of rising ingredient costs. I think most people, as a consumer, I think people would prefer if the cost just raised, because then at least you could see what's going on. Like, there seems to be kind of, it's sort of devious, or it's like they're trying to trick you into not realizing that prices are going up. As a consumer, I'd rather be aware that prices are going up. But I guess when we read articles like this, we do become aware of that. Some of Royal Canine's cat food now weighs 5.1 ounces, down from 5.9 ounces. So they're even using shrinkflation on your pets. But they still cost us the same. Royal Canine, a subsidiary of Mars, said that it had reduced some product sizes because of unprecedented demand for food products during the pandemic. Speaking of unprecedented demand for pet supplies, I know during the pandemic, a lot of people were adopting dogs and cats. A lot of people got into keeping backyard roosters for eggs. And now that the pandemic's over and people can kind of return to their normal lives, a lot of people are dropping those pets that kept them company over quarantine. They're dropping them off at animal shelters. I saw in one city there's a bunch of loose roosters and chickens running around because a lot of people just abandoned their backyard roosters that were giving them eggs during the pandemic. Charmin toilet paper originally had 650 sheets per roll. It now only contains about half of that, and even its mega rolls and super rolls don't have as many sheets as the original. The sheets have reportedly gotten smaller too. So that's a pretty hefty cut, half the size, and they're making the individual toilet sheets smaller. Hopefully you guys don't get poop on your hands. Let's see here. Cadbury changed the shape of its famous dairy milk bars in 2013 and changed the size of them too. The individual pieces now have rounded edges and contain nearly 10% less chocolate than before. But dairy milk isn't the only Cadbury product owned by Mondelez that has shrunk over the years. Chocolate bars it sells in multi-packs weigh much less than ones it sells individually, and it announced plans to shrink down the size of multi-pack bars even further. So, what is that? It was 36 grams, now they're 30 grams. Mondelez also owns Swiss chocolate company Toblerone, which makes distinctively triangular chocolate bars. In 2014, it reduced the weight of its bars by 25% by adding more space between each piece, but reversed the decision 2 years after public outcry. And it looks like that's the end of this story. Let's see if we have any comments. I always like reading the comments. Doesn't look like we do. But anyhow, hopefully you guys enjoyed this story. If you did, give the video a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the channel, click that subscribe button down below, ring the bell, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.